causes stress in our lives? I think if I just ask randomly right now, everybody would be saying that yes, there is so much stress that is there with respect to anything or everything. There are major life events. There's loss of relationship or loss of a loved one or somebody getting married or family conflicts, financial worries. There's so much happening in the current times in our lives where there is a complete shift of dimension from a very joint family or a very soothing life to a nuclear family and a very city life where we are always running. So that itself, it can cause so much stress in the day to day life. There's work related stress that can be like workload, job pressure, conflict with co-workers, long hours, traffic, health challenges, because we are so busy all the time. Of course, we don't have time for our health. So there comes the health challenges where most of us are facing like either borderline diabetes or hypertension, overweight, or not able to have any physical activity. So many things that are contributing to our health, which is again contributing to our mental health and physical health. So, yeah, we are going to discuss today caring for minds, which is a very important aspect. What I generally feel, let it be for a caregiver or for a normal, general public. So, the topic today that I'm going to address is like nurturing well being in daily life and caregiving. To understand basically the stress, what is stress, stress management, and some coping strategies in daily life and caregiving as well. So, a quick overview of the session is that we are going to understand the science of stress in general life and then some practical coping strategies and how to build a emotional resilience, understand the role of community in supporting mental well-being, and a brief insight in dementia and caregiver burden, and a little bit about what is dementia and ARDSA Hyderabad chapter, the NGO that I represent. So, what exactly is stress? I'll give you a small example. Like I was walking in my, gated community and some really small children, like under 10, they were playing and they were just talking among themselves. These are like small little kids and they're like, I have so much stress. And I was so surprised to hear that coming from a literally under 10 child. And I just stopped there to hear that what exactly is the stress. And like, homework here. I was like, oh my God, the common use of the word stress or the other terms that we elderlies are using has been transferred even to the small generation and they understand it is something that can give you a discomfort. So let's just try to understand that the common term that we use, stress, what exactly it is. It is basically the body's response, a very natural response where there is some sort of a additional demand or challenge. It could be something like an illness, it could be something like just a thought that is worrying us. So the definition goes by that it is a state of worry, a state of mental tension caused by difficult situation or challenging situation. It is a very natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our daily life. It is like the stress can affect anyone and everyone. A little push that will help us mainly to wear us down. Then it basically affects the body also. It can also, so in the presentation, I'm going to take you a little bit in detail at what exactly happens. So, what causes stress in our lives? I think if I just ask randomly right now, everybody would be saying that yes, there is so much stress that is there with respect to anything or everything. There are major life events. There's loss of relationship or loss of a loved one or somebody getting married or family conflicts, financial worries. There's so much happening in the current times in our lives where there is a complete shift of dimension from, a very joint family or a very soothing life to a nuclear family and a very city life where we are always running. So that itself, it can cause so much stress in the day to day life. There's work related stress that can be like workload, job pressure, conflict with co-workers, long hours, traffic, health challenges, because we are so busy all the time. Of course, we don't have time for our health. So there comes the health challenges where most of us are facing like either borderline diabetes or hypertension, overweight, or not able to have any physical activity. So many things that are contributing to our health, which is again contributing to our mental health and physical health. Then there is the daily life, as I mentioned, long commutes, house chores, or the 10-year-old doing the homework, studies, education. Everything has become so competitive, and there's so much competition that is happening, right? That is also causing. And then there is an internal factor that is something that not necessarily everybody would have, but this is an internal factor that affects, where it is like a negative thinking that we adapt, or there is a constant, comparison, jealousy, or some people have perfectism, unrealistic expectation from self or from family, or certain personality traits that makes it harder to cope in the daily life. And these are the internal factors that affects, or these are the causes of stress. As we all know that in today's context, I think this is a pretty small slide to give you an idea that what is a stress. There's so many things. There's emotional, financial, physical. There's a sandwich between the generation, as I mentioned, that balancing children, balancing with aging parents, nuclear families, parents in different cities, and then people trying to migrate to different cities for better job, and then there's studies, careers, all these things where there's a lot of peer pressure also, and that is contributing to all this. And then there is a lot of other things that happen, like a lot of people are still like feeling the post covid psychological fatigue, or there's a lot of social stigma about a lot of things that they go through in daily life. It could be a mental health, it could be a physical health, or it could be something like a social event that has happened in the life. And the news, social media, that is contributing to a very very high extent, right? So we don't know which news to believe, we don't know what is happening, but there is so much tension that is being built up. So, who experienced stress? Of course, everyone, including me and everyone who is listening over here. And then a little bit that I'm going to talk in this presentation is about the dementia caregivers. Caregivers are basically people who are providing care for someone who is ill, or a family member who is undergoing a health issue or something, right? So, basically, if we have to think about stress in different dimension, I think it's all over the place. Everyone, nobody is spared through it. Then comes, what are the types of stress? So let's just try to understand what are the different types of stress, right? So it could be the good, the bad, and the long term. So stress, as I said, that it's a very body response to any demand or challenge. In psychology, stress is a feeling of emotional strain and pressure. It is a form of mental discomfort. Small amounts of stress can be very beneficial for, like, for performance in exam, or for athletes in sports, or that motivational drive. So that stress actually helps us in a lot of things, like to perform good, in sports or at work, or like the reaction to the environment. So we need to understand that okay, stress is there, but it is in multiple ways, and how exactly is it affecting us? So not necessarily always in a very negative way. In certain times, yes, it is positive also that helps us. So let's just have a look here. Like first, we can just talk about like acute stress. This is a short-term stress that comes in daily challenge, like something going for a job or going for an exam. It can actually help you to stay alert and focused. Or even like something, cooking food in the morning. You're so stressed, but then you know that okay, this is what I have to achieve, and this is what I have to do. So the sense of completion is there. It is something that we feel daily in the daily life. Then episodic acute stress. This happens when acute stress keeps coming again and again. So it is people who are like very busy, very unplanned life, often like, always running and not like very structured in their work. So that is also a stress. Some people always late to work or missing the deadlines at work or having very frequent arguments with people. There is irritation, poor sleep. So that can cause for a long-term stress. Then comes the chronic stress, which is more like it stays for weeks and months and years, and it affects body, it affects mind in a very deeper way, and the core energy is affected. It takes sometimes years and years to come out of these chronic stress. So the best thing is, yes, to identify it and then start working on how to cope with it or how to manage it. Having stress is not a bad thing. It is a very common thing for anybody. So we need to identify that where exactly do we fit in, and how am I going to cope up in my category of the stress. So long term stress can be like, say a caregiver looking after a loved one with dementia for many years, or somebody having health issue for years and the family taking care, so they will be going through some sort of a stress over the years and years, and then not able to take care of themselves. For example, chronic stress can also be like people who have gone through some sort of a trauma or have had bad experiences and not able to come out of it. Then there is distress, negative stress. This is a harmful stress that makes you overwhelmed and helpless. Something like losing a job, relationship problems, or very long term illnesses or long term psychological issues that can affect the mental health and happiness in day to day life. Then there is the best one, the stress, where it's like, where it is a good type of stress that pushes you to do things better. It helps you to feel excited, motivated, helps you to grow in what you are doing. So for example, like preparing for a big celebration, you're stressed about the whole thing, but at the end of it, you know that you're going to be so happy. Or something like a athletic thing or a sports or a hobby, starting a new thing, moving to a new place. So these are certain things, certain stresses, how they affect us. Further, if we have to understand the type of stresses, right? So they are generally physical stress, emotional stress, and mental or cognitive. So physically, how stress affects us. It can make us feel fatigue or low energy level, feeling constantly tired, headache, migraine, some people having sleep issues or muscle tensions, a lot of neck pain, shoulder pain, or physically not feeling fit or healthy or motivated to do things. There are a lot of pains happening, and then there is, always on the mind that I'm ill, and there is like a stress that my immunity is weak or I'm not able to perform well. Probably like, always thinking that I am sick. Then some more of these physical signs are like chest pain. Some people feel really, very heavy in the chest, or having breathlessness or feeling dizzy, shaking, and then having in high blood pressure, hypertension is one thing. That's how like these things, stress can also contribute to hypertension, to diabetes, and so many other issues. So if not taken care at this stage, it will definitely, contribute to a clinical manifestation. In case if you feel that okay, this is where you fall in the category, or you're really feeling all these, reach out for help, reach out to a medical professional, maybe a psychologist, maybe a doctor, or someone, a professional who can help you how to cope up with stress. I'm definitely going to show you some of the coping mechanism and strategies. Do try them. If they don't work, you definitely need to reach out to the professional, or at the same time, parallelly, you can try both the things. Emotional stress is something where it is a very subjective perception that emotionally, like say, emotional stress is not just about the external event, but also how it is perceived and interpreted by the individual. The way we think that okay, how somebody is talking about it could be just our perception, or it could be how we are perceiving others or the environment. A lot of internalizing things or negativity. And then there is psychological and physical impact. So there can be feelings that can lead to anxiety, sadness, depression to some extent, irritability, not able to concentrate on certain tasks, work, home, or studies, along with the physical symptoms like headache, muscle tension, and sleep disturbance. Then the potential health problems we have already discussed, like hypertension, digestive problems, weakened immune function. So even emotional stress can cause all these things. Impact on our behavior, the way we are behaving, the way we are talking to people, the way we are presenting ourselves. So there is a change in behavior. There is generally a social withdrawal that happens. We don't want to talk to people. We want to be aloof. We want to avoid people. And then the other impact can be relying on alcohol or substance, which is a very negative thing to cope with this kind of a stress. Then struggling with daily routines, like something that someone has done throughout their year. It could be like, basic activities at home or at work or with friends, and they're suddenly not interested in doing it or cognitively not able to concentrate on those things or not able to do that. Role of mental health conditions like depression, anxiety. So it creates a cycle. It's like a vicious cycle that happens with emotional stress and mental health. So that can become a very tricky and challenging situation. So there is mental and social and traumatic stress, which is cognitive stress, is like very overwhelming thoughts where we are not able to take proper decisions or mentally overloaded, thinking of the one thing over and over for days and weeks, and then not able to overcome of that particular thought that we have. So it can be an exam pressure. It could be something like maybe something that somebody has a friend has told, or the friend did something, or anybody, or not able to do like multitasking, problem solving under deadlines. So it will affect the cognitive, which is mental stress. Then social stress, right? People feel very stressed caused by interaction in a social atmosphere. Nowadays, as I said, that there's so much competition happening and there's so much peer pressure. So people feel like, stressed just to step out or just to meet. So it is not like everybody is going to feel everything that I'm talking about over here. Yes, some of the points will be applicable for me. Some of the points may not be. Something will be applicable for someone else. Then there is traumatic stress. These are the things that we don't think about, we don't talk about, and there is a lot of stigma associated with it. So, traumatic stress could be like an event that has happened and you're ashamed to talk about it to people. But then that is somewhere inside killing you. And that's the exact thing that is needed to be done, that you need to step out and talk to people, talk to relevant people, maybe a professional or somebody who is very close to you. It can be like, abuse, violence, or some sort of a natural disaster. A lot of people had a lot of issues in COVID, or some accidents, or there are multiple things that can be traumatic stress. So, what is our general stress response mechanism? The first thing that comes to everybody's mind is like fight or flight. So, either we fight this situation in the proper way or we flight it. So, these are the four F in stress and trauma response. So either we fight, we verbally or physically, talk back, or we get aggressive, or flight. We just get aloof. We remove ourselves from, physically, mentally, from a social atmosphere, and just it is like becoming very aloof as a response to the particular stress that we have. Then there is freeze, completely shut down or confused. We don't know what to do, or fawn, overly accommodating to perceived desires of others, like how others are dictating, we are trying to do that. So a stress mechanism is mainly it works in this, and automatically, subconsciously, our brain picks up what to do out of these four forces. And then there is, because of the very high stress, our body also reacts. So there can be hormonal reactions, there can be long-term impact like cardiovascular issues and weak immunity. Then there is the psychological stress response. So we have some stress going on maybe for a week, for month, or more than that, and how the psychological response by default the body is perceiving. One is the perception. We interpret a situation as a threat or overwhelming. I can't handle this. I can't do this. This is too much for me. And that's how psychologically we evolve. Or it is basically the emotional reaction where the brain triggers emotional responses like anxiety, irritability, or getting overwhelmed or depressed, and then reacting in that particular way. Or it can be cognitive impact, like a lot of racing thoughts, continuously thinking about the same thing over and over again, poor concentration, poor attention, a lot of negative self talk. It affects the self esteem. They're not able to trust in self, not able to, be confident about what we are doing, decision making difficulties. And then it can be a behavior response to cope. We may withdraw socially, aloof, not meeting with friends, families, or overeat or skip meals. So there's a lot of food habits that changes as a response to the stress. Or some people use the substances, like it can be smoking, alcohol, or other negative substances that should not be used. Or avoid their responsibilities, like people will leave family or other things and just don't want to do anything because they're so stressed. So these are certain things that we need to identify. And a lot of time I feel that if you think that you're a healthy person, you're not going through that stress, then look around. I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be like, who are going through. It is very difficult to say that who is going through a mental stress or psychological stress. On face, they have a complete different mask. They are very happy. They show something else to you, but inside, maybe they are showing these symptoms which we don't identify. And a lot of times we say that, oh, it's their personality. That is how they are. They're aloof. They don't want to eat. They don't want to do that. We just take it as a norm of that person. But we need to start questioning what exactly is happening. Or some people who have like long-term hypertension, diabetes. What is the reason? Nowadays, a lot of things are directly associated with stress. So let's talk about some coping mechanism. So there are certain healthy adaptive mechanism and certain unhealthy, which are maladaptive mechanism that people adapt. So for healthy, it is like, to reduce the stress in a constructive way. So maybe, taking a walk to clear your mind, talking to friend or therapist, practice breathing exercises, the coping mechanism that we are going to talk about. The unhealthy practices, a lot of time, if the stress is not identified, say within the family, especially for children or even for elders, right? They might adapt this because there's nobody who's giving them that kind of attention which they actually want. I remember, like, a small child, almost 10 or 12-year-old, telling to his mom that, can I have just 1 hour of your time? All I need is that 1 hour, because probably the mother was so busy or just running around with work or household chores that she's not able to give time to the child. They both have individual life, but sometimes we take it as a norm that, oh, they are doing, they're managing things on, they're grown up, they're able to do everything. This is our perception that the other person is doing well. Sometimes there are a lot of these cues that we are missing on, and it is not very easy also to pick up these cues. But then if you actually start thinking about it, now that you understand what is stress and what are the symptoms, start picking it up, that what exactly is happening with maybe the child, the husband, wife, spouse, or parents. And then you will see that, okay, if you start observing, there are a lot of issues that people are going through. So the unhealthy, maladaptive practices are something like binge eating, where people are overeating, snacking, or skipping meals. And then there is excessive screen time with video games and TV. Then there is smoking, drinking, withdrawal from others, from the society, from friends, or just getting angry, all the time blaming others, all the time trying to put blame on other people.